I just want to be fun. Like, I'm not fun. As a guy, I'm not a fun guy. I want to be so bad. I'll see people having fun and be like, that looks dope. And I'll tell you this, there's nothing less fun than catching somebody watch you have fun. Because that happens to me all the time. There are times where I'm standing to the side and I'm watching somebody have fun. And no matter what you're doing that's fun, if you catch somebody watching you have fun, you stop. You stop immediately what you're doing. You'll be having fun, whether you're dancing, you be riding go-karts, whatever. And then if you just see someone off to the side like me, like, yeah. You look like you're having a good time. You were immediately not having a good time. It's the worst. It's so bad. I hate it. I don't like being the one to do. I didn't know that when you at a party and people are dancing and you are not dancing, you watching them dance. I didn't know you're supposed to move your head to the rhythm. I didn't know you're supposed to move your head to the rhythm side to side. I didn't know that's what we were doing. Like when people are dancing and they're over there, you're like, yeah, I didn't know it was that. I've done two very off things. One, I didn't know I was supposed to move my head if I was watching people dance, and I was supposed to move my head to the beat. So one time there were these people dancing, and then they caught me watching them have fun, but I was being completely still. And that is also heroin. You know what I mean? Like, you really getting it, and then somebody off to the side against the wall is like, yeah. Keep doing that. It's very upsetting, you know? And like I said, I didn't know we were supposed to move our head side to side. So then there was another time I was like, okay, I'm supposed to move my head to the beat. So then I was moving my head to the beat, but I was going back and forth. And that is also unsettling to watch. You're dancing and somebody's like, yeah, to the rhythm, yes. Yeah, get it, get it. I just want to be fun. I want to be fun like, Brazilians are very fun. Brazilians as a people, they have incredible music, beautiful dancing, they're beautiful people and they know how to have fun. I read about a guy who was so fun. This guy partied for 4 days straight. 4 full days of party. He partied from New Year's Eve well into the New Year. So first, then 3 days. He partied for 4 days straight without realizing he had been shot in the head. That's a fun guy. That's a very, very fun individual, you know? This dude got shot in the head and went to more parties and was more fun. If I get shot, I don't know about y'all, but if I get shot in the head, I die, all right? Maybe that's just how I was raised, but like, I don't get shot in the head and keep carrying on twerking. I go to another plane where the mortal coil cannot follow, all right? This dude got shot in the head and went to more parties and was progressively more fun per party. If I get shot in the head, that is everybody's problem. I'll tell you that right now. If I got shot in the head tonight, we are all going to the hospital. Please believe me. And I will be calling out individuals if I see you trying to peel off. I'm like, no, Cindy, I need you. This man was shot in the head. And we don't even know the circumstances of him getting shot in the head. I was reading about it. Nobody knows this. Okay, I came up with some theories because no one knew. I think there may be, you know how guys can be at a party, you're out here dancing or you're walking with your drink, somebody bumps into you, doesn't apologize. Now we have a problem, right? So now you get nose to nose trying to get them to apologize. Then you get loud and everybody's watching. And then you get like fully, you know like when dudes do this, like this full on in my face, our noses are touching. This is always weird. Anytime I see this, I'm like, y'all should just kiss. It would make more sense if you kiss right now. Because this is the thing. If he's here and I'm here, he could still really, he could choke me, he could do anything, right? Like, this is real fighting could happen right here. Here, you're a little too close. Here, there really isn't anything you would punch us if you punch me right now. And so maybe, they got into it. They got nose to nose or whatever. They were ready to fight. And then maybe this dude was like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do has got more people killed than any other sentence in language. It goes, what you gonna do, followed closely by, I wouldn't take that if I was you. It's like, those two are deadly, right? So then maybe he goes, what you gonna do? And then the other guy pulls out a gun and shot him in the head. And then he went, rude. And then walked about his business, because clearly it didn't matter. He had been shot in the head. The head is where they keep all the brains. I don't know how this man was shot in his head and didn't know. I mean, look, what I think actually happened is that he was probably getting twerked on. Twerking is very distracting. If you're getting twerked on by the right person, you won't notice anything else happening in the room. He was probably like, girl, you getting it. Oh my God, you really getting it. You really getting this. Don't worry about that. That's just a loud noise, baby girl. Keep doing what you doing. Oh. No, it's wild. They asked him at the hospital. When he finally went to the hospital, they were like, you've clearly been shot in the head. What did you think happened? And he was like, oh, I thought I got hit in the head with a rock. That's the most shot in the head thing to say I've ever heard in my entire. You know, like when you at a party and you having a good time and everybody just starts throwing rocks. You know that common occurrence that happens at every party where everybody's having fun, we're all dancing, and then that one guy goes pebbles for everybody. You know that thing that happens all the time to each and every one of us. Thought you got hit in the head with a rock. What? Only reason he went to the hospital is that his arm was spasmic. But he didn't even go right away. He was probably getting twerked on in the moment. It was like, girl, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, girl. You're really getting it. Oh my God. That's amazing. Everything you're doing is great. They finally stopped dancing after like a day. I don't know. And then she was like, where do you live? Let's go back to your place. He was like, girl, I live over there. And she was like, where? He's like, I'm pointing right at it, girl. She's like, what's wrong with your arm? He's like, oh, this has been happening for 3 days, girl. I saw this video of this guy who was at a white guy in Alabama that was at a Bass Pro Shop. So far, whole story checks out, right? So far, nothing is out of the ordinary, right? And this dude is very much on drugs. I don't know what drugs, but I know drugs, right? He's on drugs. Now, the story starts in the parking lot. He drives up to the Bass Pro Shop, and he immediately drives his car into a light pole at the Bass Pro Shop in the parking lot, and then he backs up and does it 8 more times, chops it down like a tree, right? And then he gets out and walks in the Bass Pro Shop. So you already know my man is ready to play. And so walks in the Bass Pro Shop. The video starts where it starts, so I don't know what happened in between. I don't know when he got naked. All I know is this dude. The video starts with this dude, and he just been doing cannonballs into the Bass Pro Shop fish tank. So these fish are all compromised, all right? So he is doing naked cannonballs over and over again. He getting deep, and I like this thing. I'd like to think they called the police when he got naked, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they were like, let's see what he does. And so my man is just climbing up, dunking, and then you can tell he's on drugs because he's speaking drugs, right? Because then in the video, he swims to the front of the tank and he's like, and when I heard that, I was like, that's drugs. That's not the native tongue of any land. And so the police come. So now we're going to switch for a second from people recording him on their phones to the police body cam, right? So police show up. They see him in the fish tank, and they see him, and he waved to them. It's not really phased. And so then they are trying to figure out how he got up there. So then they go ahead and they start climbing up some of the rocks, right? So then they turn, police body cam, they turn, and when they turn to him, in the tank. He's gone. And so you're like, okay, he on drugs, but is he magic? Because that's a different situation. Can you imagine if a magician is on drugs? David Blaine already like that. Imagine David Blaine on drugs. That'd be a problem. Make you feel like you on drugs. And so then he's gone. He's gone because even though he's on drugs, he had the presence of mind that, hey, that's the police. They probably won't talk to me. And so then he jumped out of the tank. But the tank is like 18 feet high, right? So this man, naked, jumped out of the tank just onto the ground, and he landed Family Guy style, right? So this dude has knocked himself out on the ground, right? And he laying over here like this, like he just fully passed out. And you can even hear a cop through another cop's body cam turn, and he's not there, and then they see him on the ground, and you hear another cop go, oh shit. And then they come down. Now this man is like fully out, right? But he is on drugs. And so the drugs do wake him up just in time because now the cops are over him, right? I don't know if they had actually grabbed his wrist yet or anything, but this dude immediately wakes up on drugs, flips over, and kicks one of the cops in the balls, right? So that cop goes down. I don't know the code for it, but he's not getting back up for a minute, okay? And now the cops are all have bent knees because they're like, okay, we got a live one here. Like, he got a lot of fight in him, right? And I almost never feel bad for the police. But in this instance, I'm not gonna lie, I feel pretty bad for those officers because they try to catch a dude who is on drugs and naked and wet, so he is very hard to catch. Basically impossible. Because every time they grab this man, he over here like, no, no, thank you, no jail for me, no. And he's slippery as a fish, so they really can't get a hold of him. No, jail doesn't feel nice. No, I don't want it. And it's horrible because then there's really nothing to grab. And I'm telling you, because he was naked in the tank and we saw it, there's nothing to grab, right? So they are fighting to catch this dude. They finally get a hold of him because I think they just been drying him off this whole time. You know what I mean? Through the entire scuffle. And they finally get him handcuffed and they're walking him out. And as they're walking about, this is back on people's phones now. As they're walking about, he walking past people who've been recording him on their phones and he's going, ba, 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 ba. Now this next part is not on camera. I had to read about this. They take him outside, they put him in the back of the cop car, and this is the first time where even though he is on drugs, he's not having a good time. Because now he in the back of the cop car going, this feels unfair. And then on drugs, he starts kicking the door, and because he's on drugs, even though he got a naked, wet foot, he is so strong that he is kicking the car door so hard, he is warping the metal, right? And I saw that, and I was like, he must kick that cop's dick off. Like, that's horrible. Police had to come out and make a statement the next day where they were like, we hope that his actions on camera will lead to better decisions in the future. Also, we expect Officer Ortiz to make a full recovery. I try to be a good friend to my friends with anxiety, because I have anxiety too, but like, it's hard to really be there for someone with anxiety because they're right. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you ever really listen to an anxious person talk, they're making some very salient points. Like, their points are actually so good, it started to jack up my anxiety because I was like, fuck, I didn't think about that. Oh no! That's the worst. I'll tell you this, one time One time a friend called me. And he was not doing well at all. And he was telling me how he wanted to, end it and everything. And then just started describing to me everything that was wrong in his life. And as I listened to my friend, I realized that we had the same life. And I'd be lying if I said I'd get a little defensive. Because he over here telling me, he's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm a grown man eating TV dinners every night. And I'm like, well, maybe you're doing your best, all right? It's like I'm doing open mics every night to a bunch of people who just feel like I'm bothering them while they try to watch the game. I'm like, well, maybe you're gonna get better one day. It's weird how much anxiety there is over the election. Like truly nobody's happy. Like everybody's like, You even feel how it got in here? Everybody was like bummed out. It's odd, right? Because it's like a rematch nobody wanted. It feels really, really crazy. That's why, if I'm being honest with you, I try to think a lot about how to solve big problems, right? And I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer. I'm not even helpful, all right? But I think about how to solve big problems. And I think that in this scenario, and I want to be clear where I'm coming from. I'm not like, I mean this across the board, I grew up in Louisiana. I lived in Chicago. I live in New York now. I travel around the country. I'm not just speaking with like some partisan idea in mind. I'm saying I think that for this election, and just this one, right? For this one election, that the presidential race should be a race. Because no matter who wins, I think we will be more astonished than upset. You know what I mean? Like, no matter who wins, we're gonna be like, I didn't know he had it in him. That's wild.
Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
I've been watching a lot of news. Which usually, it's not great. Every once in a while something will happen that you're like, that's okay. I'll let that slide. It'll be bad news, but it's bad news that you can like live with, Like there's one particular squirrel that's been attacking a bunch of people, and it's like really getting them. It's like the news came. You know how much a squirrel has a scratch? You know how deep it has to get to be newsworthy? Like the news came and interviewed all these people. So far, he's got like 2 victims. Both people are like, he came right at me. But mostly is bad in a bigger way. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, this is, I guess, what bothers me the most is that it's who they interview as well. When you're watching the news, you end up watching a lot of rich people, but they won't have anything to do with what's happening, really. So why are you asking what he thinks? He does have money, yes, but like he wasn't even there. That's weird. And then sometimes the news will be about them because they're rich and they're moving money around. And we've done a thing now where we've equated being rich with being important. Because obviously money has power. It can bring you influence. But then at a certain point, you have to just accept that, like, yes, they have money. They don't know anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean that from a place of like, we have equated having money with being really smart. You must be really smart if you got the money. Because you must be brilliant if you have lots of money. Because it's the only way you can get money. Dude, I'm just saying, that's how they teach it. They're like, man, this guy was really smart. He had all the money. I'm sure he came about it by completely legal and ethical means, but like he has all this money, so he's probably really smart. We should just listen to him. And it's like, if that was how you got money, then yes, but it isn't. There's so many different ways to get money. Some people had an idea, they invented something, and then a lot of people were like, that's a great idea. We're glad you invented that. And then they buy so much of it that now this person is rich. Or you write a book. You write a book. You write a book and everyone likes the book, and then you put the book out, and then the book is $20, but then like millions of people like it, which is millions of 20s. Even after taxes, that's still millions of 20s. So now you're rich, but you wrote a book. You don't know about anything but the book you wrote. But somehow, every time we watch them in the news, we watch them in culture, we're like listening to them for an opinion that is not the thing that got them rich. Do you know what I mean? And that's something that feels crazier by the day, because crazier and crazier people keep getting rich. Do you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. Okay, like someone like a William Randolph Hearst, right? Like someone who's like old rich, like black and white rich. Remember that? Just in the no color pictures of them rich. You know what I'm talking about? You can't find a single color picture. If there's them in color, that's AI, because they were before color. So then people who were rich before colors came out, I will extend the olive branch to them that maybe they knew more stuff because they had to know a wide range of things, and there was also less stuff to know in a way. Internet hadn't been invented yet. You could go to the library, but they had whole Dewey Decimal Systems that really just sometimes slowed you down instead of helped you, because then you're like, why am I going by 3.5 instead of just tell me the title? And then they also couldn't look it up like regular, so you had to use the system. They couldn't be like, oh, it's right over there, because the computer said, because computers weren't out yet, and you didn't have color. So life was harder. And so I think someone who was very well-rounded and got into business and had a bunch of different businesses could be very smart, could be someone who could answer questions outside of just their field, right? Present day, just present day is harder. It's harder to be smart about everything because everyone has access to almost everything. It also depends on how you made your money. Did you make your money from inventing something? Did you write a book? Did you start a company? And then the company was really successful. So successful, you could buy another company. And then now you have like 3 subsidiary companies under you. They're all doing well. Your big company's doing well. You're very successful. You know what to do when it comes to business. That doesn't mean you know anything about, like, I don't know, the environment. But maybe you made your money millions, maybe even a couple billion, from buying with some starter money, some funding from people. You bought like a pharmaceutical company, and this pharmaceutical company didn't really do anything, and none of the drugs really worked, but you told everybody that they did. You told everybody that they did. You told everybody in a level that kind of made you like a snake oil salesman, like, oh, it's gonna come out soon and it's gonna fix everything. And then people were like, it's gonna fix everything? That's crazy. Almost nobody ever says that, because that's pretty illegal to tell people something's gonna do something, then that's fraud. So for you to be like doing fraud on the news with your full chest, your company must really do that. And so then you get more investors, you keep doing rounds of, investing, you build up the company, and then it gets to the point where you're like ready to go public with nothing really. You don't even really have a company, and the drugs don't work. But you can either go public and then try to sell the company, you just try to sell the company outright, and then now you get to leave with the money you made from the company that somebody else bought. You scammed. You were scamming. And some people are very good at scamming. Some people are very smart scammers. Like when you watch the documentary later about their scam, you're like, wow. Wow, incredible. Good scamming. It wasn't my money. Delicious. So some people have scammed their way into millions or billions of dollars. Some people have earned it in the way that you can earn it through creating something that people in the market want. So then that builds the money up. And some people just come from money. Some people already had money, but you just didn't know who they were because like their parents had sense enough not to try to be famous. So then they passed them a whole bunch of money, and then they showed up one day and they were like, I'm money. And then it's like, oh, okay, did he make all that money to just have money out of nowhere like that? It's like, no, he's actually really rich. And then you get what we have, Like I had a friend who was talking to me about Elon and was saying he's like this like super genius. He's like this super nerd genius. And I was like, oh, what makes you say that? Like what? Like why would you say that or something like it? Like what makes you think? Like, what makes you think he's a super genius? I'm just curious, right? I wasn't even hating. I was just genuinely like, what makes you say that? And he's like, just, like Tesla and everything that he's trying to do with Mars and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, plenty of people try to go to Mars. And that's actually pretty common. I know plenty of people who smoke up on a Friday thinking they can make it to Mars. And some of them go. Some of them have been there. I have been in rooms with people so high out of their mind that you're like, you at least at Venus. There is no way. You stopped it. Okay. All right. I was trying. And trying is important. Everyone, look, if you have a dream, you should try. I want that for everybody. But trying isn't doing. He's not doing Mars. He's trying to go to Mars. He's trying to go to Mars. Also, Tesla, I'm pretty sure he bought that company, so he's smart enough to buy. He's smart enough to, like, use his money to buy something. I don't know if that makes you a super genius. So you can only equate, like, money with wisdom or being intellectual for so long before the bill sort of comes due. If you're so smart, what are you going to do with it? If the answer is just make more money, then like we don't need you. You know what I mean? And I say this because I was watching the news, and I don't even know why this was the B-roll that the news used, but it was a yacht, and I got mad. And I need to be clear here. I didn't get mad because it was like someone had a yacht and I want a yacht. I've joked about wanting a yacht. I don't want a yacht. What would I do with a yacht? Like, what would I even do? You know what I mean? I'm not mad that they had a yacht. I'm mad at the yacht. Do you know what I mean? Look, I don't care if you're rich and then you bought a yacht. I care that the yacht was dumb. This is a dumb yacht. This was, I think it was like $50 million, something like that, but it's a $50 million already. $50 million on a boat. That's like technically not a boat, it's a yacht, but it's a boat. It still does boat. It's a boat. It's a boat. You need to be in water for it to do its job. It's a boat, and a $50 million, and then the boat had a pool. The yacht had a pool, so you basically spent $50 million on a bucket. It's a bucket. It's a bucket in the water. That's crazy. That's so dumb. That's why you shouldn't have the money. It's not even for like a more. I wish I was coming to you for like a moral reason of like, I can't believe it. I can't believe someone would spend $50 million on a yacht while there are people starving in their country. I'm not even trying to appeal to you like your morality or anything. I'm saying that if you spend $50 million on a boat with a pool in it, you're in the water. You're in the water. The water's here. The water. You're surrounded by water, and you're like, no, but I don't want that water. That's why you should have nothing. Actually, that's why I hope for nothing for you, because to need a pool, you're in the water. If you fell overboard, you'd be able to swim. You want to go for a swim? Just tip over. You'll be swimming. And instead, you had a pool put on a boat. You had a pool installed on a boat. You had different water in your boat with the water surrounded. That is an I don't want to get up to get the remote level of lazy to swim. I could fall overboard and swim and maybe drown, or I could have a pool. I could have a pool and swim in that and maybe drown, and maybe and maybe you will, and maybe I hope you do. Like it's a pool on a boat. Sounds like a riddle. Why would you? Did swimming in it. Swimming in it. Swimming in it just to get out and be like, oh, I think I'm gonna go look at the water. A yacht with an infinity pool on it. A yacht with an infinity pool. You know what else is an infinity pool? You know the original infinity pool? You know the first infinity pool? It was a pool so big, people thought there was an edge and you would fall off. That's how big the actual infinity pool was that you're in right now, but you wanted your own. And then on the yacht, this thing will be like $50 million. And then they'll give you a little tour of the yacht. I've watched a tour of a yacht before, because sometimes I hate watch things, because sometimes I have a lot of like hate in my heart, and you would think the only way to get hate out is with love, but sometimes it is with an overwhelming portion of hate. Like when you actually indulge in the hate, and then you have so much hate that it is spilling out of you, and then you look at all the hate on the floor and you're like, that was too much, let me not do that again. But for the level of hate that I had, I did watch a whole like Lifestyles of Rich and Famous type thing, let me tour my yacht, right? And so the whole time they were touring the yacht, he was showing me basically an apartment, which is kind of cool, but it's only cool because it's a yacht. If we were on land, you'd be like, oh, you're middle class. Like that's what's so insane about a yacht, is that it's like you get a tour of the yacht, and already there are things that, like, just to be on the yacht make you uncomfortable. So they'll have like 3 tiers, right? And they'll be walking around the boat, and you see even the cameraman trying to follow the rich person trying to tour the yacht. There's not enough room between the rail and the side of the first floor apartment for you to really walk. So now he's over here being like, we got this one in 2015. Cameraman's trying not to fall overboard, and then he takes you inside and he's like, here's the bed, and the bed is like, fine. It's a bed. It's a bed. A bed. It's not mind-blowing. It's not even $50 million worth of bed. It's just a bed with some floor next to it. So far my mind isn't blown. Nobody's floating. Nobody's like floating in midair and making it look like a experience worth $50 million. And then, they go up to the next level and they're like, oh, and we have a kitchen here. And it's like, the kitchen isn't a kitchen. It's like a kitchenette. Just like as someone who has lived in Brooklyn for a long time, this is my apartment. Maybe that's also why I'm upset. You put my apartment on a boat and then paid $50 million for it, and we're supposed to think that you're smart. No. Why? No, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's also like you're giving yourself away. You already are willing to buy a $50 million yacht while there are people struggling in every country in the world. It really doesn't matter where you're from. And I'm not even telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying, just know that about yourself, that you're willing to buy a $50 million yacht and show it off as people are struggling in your country, whoever you are, whatever country this is. If you know, right? But then to be like, oh no, I'm just gonna be in international waters for like a kitchenette amount of time. All right, that sounds like crime. That sounds like... You kind of admitted to me that whatever, you plan to do something illegal. You're like, no, I'm gonna need a lot of supplies and a kitchenette. And I don't even know why I got mad about this, but they had a shower, but the shower wasn't like a shower. It wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, you've been in a nice hotel room with a shower, and you've been like, oh, this is great, and you could... The shower looked a little like prison. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been to prison, but I've watched some documentaries. And the shower, just like, because they were trying to make it sound like it had all these features. They were like, you know, you can get the waterfall. There's also, a spout that shoots this way, and then you have the one that's like mounted into the wall that just shoots across. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. But in the world of showers, I've taken a lot of showers in my life, right? Every day, and the shower shooting across either screams high school gym or prison. Like, it's... The shower shooting across... Just a perpendicular shower is not luxury. Floor to ceiling glass. And glass as the floor and glass as the ceiling. So you can look down. So you can look down and be like, look at all the fish. Look at all the... What a mind-breaking... Look at all the fish that are passing by. It's like an aquarium. It's like my aquarium. I guess the world is like my aquarium. It's like, no, you're in the aquarium, you idiot. You're the one. You're actually the one that's boxed in. You moron. You're the one that's in the glass. How does that appeal to you? You're the glass. Like, you're the fish. You're the fish. You are the fish. The fish are swimming by like, what is... Oh, wow, I didn't know we got a zoo. I had no idea that we had a zoo. You're the fish. That's crazy. Just for the glass. All glass. And the fish swimming by, wondering, wow, even the fish are like, this is what you do with $50 million. Okay. All right. I mean, live your life, you know. And I think that's also why I got so mad, is because it's like, you bought this $50 million yacht, and you're not just greedy, you wasted it. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna spend $50 million, impress me. You know, make me go, wow, yeah, that's definitely better than feeding people. Do you know what I mean? It's $50 million. You should be able to get some dope stuff for $15 million and not just have a Brooklyn apartment on water that's shaped like a bucket. You know what I mean? Just wasted $50 million. All right. I'll let it go. I was angry enough about it, and I just needed to let it out. But it's like, at $50 million, like, just the land. You could buy acres of land. You could own a forest. You could own a forest and everything in it. You could go to a forest that you bought with your millions of dollars and walk right up to Bambi and be like, I own you now. Like, that's... You could do that, and instead you're like, no, it's nice to almost drown in a boat. That happened one time. There was a guy who had a yacht, and he had a pool in his yacht, and I don't know if he got like caught cramp or something, but he did like drown in his pool in his yacht. And I read about that and I was like, and it's probably not a good response to have. That's not nice at all. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do what I did. But the laugh escaped. It wasn't like, I wasn't reading being like, ooh, I hope I see death. I was just reading and then it was like, oh, okay. Wow. Because it's just, it happened, I think, because we became so genuinely obsessed with money. Like, the U.S., America, we start out as a sort of land of opportunity. People would come here for a fresh start. Usually, it was like a fresh start. It wasn't actually like this land. We have like a money-hungry revisionist history of why people came here. There were people that came here because of religious persecution and for like a fresh start. Because you could get off a boat and just tell them your name was Larry and they'd be like, all right, and then they'd write it down. There was no, you know what I mean? Like I don't even know if you get that in human history ever again, to just show up and be like, no, I'm Dave. I don't even know who you're. That's how we got like murderers. Like there was a whole theory that like Jack the Ripper may have come to the US. That's how fresh of a start you could get. You could flee London after some of the most horrific crimes known to man, show up at Ellis Island, and even say, yeah, I'm Jack. Like, just, you could even tell them that, and they'd be like, all right, good to go. Mr. Rapar? And people would do their best, and people would try to build themselves up in spite of all different types of persecution, because that was a time in America where like white wasn't even white yet. That is crazy, right? White was not, if you were Irish, it was like, you're what? You know what I mean? Like it was, like I've been reading about it in history, Italian, you would be Italian, they'd be like, oh. I don't even know who was white. Looking back at it, it's like, I guess if you were British, but then if you were too British, they were like, I don't think you're loyal to this country. You accent all thick. Just hate. Everybody was hating everybody. Everybody had to build up as best as they could that came here, especially people who came here with nothing, and then they built themselves. And look, this is where we really started to go awry, on top of already like having slavery and stuff like that. We started to build a system where as long as there was someone beneath me, I was like, I'm fine. It started to become more about who's under you than you even doing well for yourself. It's the thing you see echo today, where there are people who are not doing well, but as long as this person's doing worse, then they're fine, you know? And as you build up, as you have more and more money, as you can pass down more and more money to your kids and everything, as you can one day be so rich that you pass down the money, and then you pass away, and then your kid shows up at the news one day to be like, I'm money. Like that, like, that kind of turned into what the American dream was. It went from like land of opportunity, get a little slice of this place for yourself, really build something, be able to take care of yourself and your family. And it became like, are you rich? People wanted to be rich so bad that we looked at anybody who was rich as wise. That we need to do whatever it is they're doing to get where they are, because I want to be where they are. Never mind their sort of moral character, never mind how they treat people, or even how they got that money. They have $100 million. I want $100 million. I'll do whatever they tell me to do. The type of person that was willing to tell the masses how to get $100 million was not actually telling them that. They were like telling them how to give me $200 million. And I think it doesn't become apparent how crazy that level of wealth is always, because we're used to these people as characters. Right? So like you're used to like a Zuckerberg as an idea of a person, because he is an idea of a person. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, look. I'm saying that he is his idea of a person. Like you could, this isn't coming out right. I'm saying that he is doing a perfectly fine first impression of a person. I'm saying, I want you to hear me when I say this. I'm saying that, you know how when your 4-year-old draws you? That's what he's doing as a person. Like he is, as a person, Mark Zuckerberg is being like, hello. That's what people say, right? Hello. And so he has, over $100 billion. And I think we can fathom that money, but we can't. Even when you try to count it, even when people make charts and they're like, guys, a billionaire doesn't even fit on the chart, right? You'll still see someone who is incredibly wealthy, and they only have we know them from being rich, and they only have $500 million. Like that's how crazy it is. It's like they're halfway to 1/100th of where Zuckerberg is. I think that's why I get so frustrated when I see the news, because you're watching the news and you're watching someone like Zuckerberg be on the news, and you're like, why? What could he possibly have to say that should be on the news? And here we're clearly stations are on sides, networks are on sides, right? But no matter what side, they can't just be like, this should never happen. And that's because we let rich people buy up all the news. So now a rich person owns the news. And so even if a journalist, someone who went to school to be a journalist, and someone who would like to tell people the truth as they find it out, they would like to do what they do in France, where in France they're like, this is the news in French. And then they want to do that, but in English for us. And then someone comes up to them right before they go live on air, and they're like, oh, don't say it's bad though, just say it's happening. You know? And so you see Zuckerberg have this huge, huge data center that's gonna decimate everything around it, and why? Like truly why? I don't think we know. We're watching these people, watching 5 companies basically prop up the S&P 500. S&P 500 is made of, I think, 500 companies. Make no mistake, without those 5 companies, the market would be correcting. It would be wherever it is supposed to be because of how the other companies are doing, which is how most companies are doing, which means it's how most of America is doing. But we've propped it up with these 5 companies. These 5 companies have gone all in on AI, and they've gone all in on AI in a way that functionally does not make sense. You look at Sam Altman, another candidate for person. You know what I mean? Like Sam Altman only looks confused when you ask him a moral question. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Look, all right, I shouldn't even really talk about this, but it was wild. I watched Tucker Carlson interview Sam Altman, and Tucker Carlson kind of implied, he was like, hey, there was that OpenAI whistleblower who basically said that y'all were violating copyright law and stealing a bunch of information and everything, and then he died mysteriously. What do you think about that? It's weird to watch Tucker Carlson unleashed on somebody you hate. It's like when the bulldog that you've been scared of in your neighborhood your whole life finally bites your bully. You're kind of like... They seem to be canceling each other out right now. I guess if he was gonna bite anybody, it's good that it's him. And you see Sam Altman clam up. Here's the thing. I'm not... Can I be 100% with y'all? Can I be really honest with y'all? I am not saying at all that Sam Altman had anything to do with that young man's death. I am saying I am saying that interview didn't not make it look like it though. Like that. I try my best not to judge people because sometimes I don't even know what I'm gonna react like or do next in a certain scenario, right? And I think too often what we do to people is we say, I know they did this thing because of this thing, right? But all I'm saying is when you watch the interview, here's the thing. If I didn't like someone, right? I would be like, what? What kind of accusations? What are you trying to say? What are you? He asks him, and Sam is like, better start saying words soon. One of two things needs to happen in the next millisecond. Either you need to start saying, profusely that you had nothing to do with this and everything, like you need to really stake your claim that like you had nothing to do with this and you're maybe even very upset by the line of questioning or something. Or if you are a robot, now would be a good time for your face to like open up like Men in Black style and have like a little alien be like, how dare you, right? Like that would be great. Because this, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't get caught cheating. This is asking you about murder, right? No. None of that. Just a lot of like, it was very sad, and we, I actually know. I was, it's just, I don't even know how to react because I've never been accused. And then Tucker quickly goes, I'm not accusing you of anything. Tucker be like, I'm not, hey. Tucker act like he on a roller coaster at his own interview. What? What? No, I'm not. That's concerning, right? That's someone could beg the question, right? And then, look, to be fair, I didn't watch the entire interview. Maybe he came out with a very convincing answer 20 minutes later. But the substantial portion that I watched didn't look great. And I don't know. We have, OpenAI with Sora, with ChatGPT. We have these large language models that are basically meant to take us to like the next level. And it doesn't seem like they're doing that. It just doesn't seem to be the case that it's taking us to what was promised, right? We were promised almost a higher consciousness. We were promised to be able to do our jobs with ease. And then in the backdoor deals, companies were promised that they'd be able to fire all of us. You know what I mean? There were always two simultaneous pitches. One, the pitch to us was like, this is going to improve your life. It's going to make you more efficient. It's going to be faster. It's going to get rid of menial tasks. The pitch to our bosses was like, he'll be out of here in like 3 months. Come on, man. And so far, AI is failing on both those fronts. You know, because we aren't elevated to some new form of consciousness. If anything, AI is giving people psychosis. You know, plenty of people have AI psychosis and becoming like more normal quicker than people are realizing it's happening. And here's a good test of the psychosis, right? If they talk to the AI like a friend, that's it. Did they name it? Is it called ChatGPT, but they called it Clarence? Then yes. Yes, no, they're in it now. If you're here and you're like, don't talk about Jan like that, you need to break loose. I pray for healing in your life, that you can break the psychosis. You know, because these large language models, they are imitations of what it would be like to connect with a person. It's not connecting with a person. It's doing an imitation of a person. And it's doing a better imitation of a person than we've seen so far. Even Zuckerberg can't touch the level of imitation of a person. This is why people think they're talking to a friend. And the understanding is that AI is going to destroy the planet. It needs so much energy to make a video of Pikachu pulling a cop over. The actual model, like you look at Sora, right? Because they just released Sora, and it can do all these things. It can like make Martin Luther King rap or whatever. Like it can do all of these like very weird things that nobody asked for. And apparently, every single one of those things costs OpenAI $5 to make. So like when people are just playing around on the thing and they're just like, look, I made Bob Ross high five Gandhi, $5. All right? So they are burning through money. We don't have a sustainable system for the energy. So why keep doing this thing? The theory is that they are doing it because they believe that when they get there, this thing will essentially be some sort of like all-knowing, all-understanding, thinking further, thinking light years ahead of us. It'll basically be God, right? And if they could like own God, then maybe they will be like a God, right? Because you'll basically have the company. You'll have the company that tells you every move to make in the market to own other companies, every move to make to protect yourself from other companies that are come after you. You would be done. You would be, you know what I mean? And that's terrifying. That's a terrifying idea, that not only that someone would want that, but that they would barrel towards it at the risk of burning up the planet, of taking up all of the water, like it's an insatiable need for like power, for control, for influence. And then you watch the news and you see that these same people, these people that don't even know how to act like people, spend millions of dollars on a yacht that is basically a bucket. It's a bucket. It is. That's how you know they don't know anything. This is what you spent the money on, knucklehead.
Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
One thing that is very fun about being in Pittsburgh is your sort of singleness in fandom. The way that you love the Steelers, right? The way that you, yeah. And I saw this story about a woman who's a a woman whose husband sadly passed, and to commemorate him, she kept his Steelers tattoo. I'm glad we're on the same page. Because initially when I saw it, I was like, what? Yeah, no, kept the Steelers tattoo and it's like in a little. And then in the article, she was like, yes, we kept the tattoo. No, we don't think it's weird. And I was like, I figured you didn't think it was weird. Seems like it was your idea. That would be wild if you were sitting there holding the plaque like, I can't believe they let us do this. This is... little odd, right? And look, I don't know. Wow. Like when I saw it, I was like, because also, look, I'm not gonna linger on it too long, but it was a big tattoo, so I don't even know what that is. That back? Is that arm? Is that, you know what I mean? And maybe this is something that the husband would have loved. Maybe he's like, yeah, keep it, put it in the living room, right? I don't know. I also don't know how hauntings work, but I imagine I do imagine having some of my skin means I'm gonna stop by. If anybody ever kept some of my neck, I think I'd be like, we have to have a discussion. Poltergeist or not, I'm coming over, we're talking about it. You know, you already have to be careful in people's houses because you never know who got the urn on the mantle or something like that. I don't know why they don't sell urns with like a lock on it. Every urn I've ever come across just been ready to be opened like a cup of sugar. We gotta start making urns harder to spill. You know what I mean? I've been in people's houses where they got, whether it's like a family member or the pet, they got the urn on like a mantle or a bookshelf, and I'm like, that's a little high. If it falls, they will be everywhere. And it does sort of, I don't know. It does taint the memory a little bit if this urn fall and now you gotta Dyson him up. And then put him back in a new urn with whatever was on the carpet. Just something to think about, baby. Literally, just even McDonald's cups are harder to spill. Just something with a twist lock, something. Because let's be honest, unless you spread in the ashes, you never need the ashes. You know? It's not like you hiding something in the ashes and then you're gonna open up the urn, pull out the Glock. Like that'd be a wild home invasion. That'd be imagine you're, let's say somebody, goodness forbid, but let's say somebody broke in your house or something like that, and then they've got you and the family held hostage, and maybe you did something to them. Maybe you're a healthcare CEO, right? And so then they got you tied up with your family and everything, and it's like, look, I'm sorry, all right? And they're like, sorry is not enough, you about to go. It's like, okay. All right, I get that, but okay, but a long time ago, my wife passed, and I always said that, like, whenever I go, I'd like to go with her, and she's right there. Intruder gonna be like, over there? Yeah, she's on the fourth shelf. Fourth shelf next to Great Expectations. If I could just like hold her, I'll just, you know, small kindness. Let me hold her while you bow. You know? The intruder's like, okay, go ahead. Go get her. Thanks, honey. No, it's wild. Because now that mantle just, it's like in a frame. And I guess they're gonna put it on the wall. That seemed just as precarious as any urn. Imagine you having a house party. And somebody bumped the frame, it fall. Now you getting yelled at, you knocked over daddy. Everybody does things differently, and some people very differently. But once again, I don't know if he would have loved this sort of thing, you know? But it'd be crazy to think he might be looking down like, ugh. But in case he loves this sort of thing, and in case he can hear us on 3, I'd love all of you to join me in a Go Steelers. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Hopefully that will stop me from being haunted. In my life, I've had a lot of roommates, and it's funny because, like, I don't know, I've talked about this before, but like, roommates is like extra family because you're poor. You don't exactly bunk up with a stranger because things are going well. Every roommate I've ever had has been out of necessity. And you just gotta get used to it. But it's crazy because people, the way that people are roommates is usually a clue into how they lived before, like how they were raised potentially. Maybe they were raised to act differently than they're acting as roommates, and this is them out on their own for the first time, rebelling against all these rules they had at home when they were, younger. That's the most charitable way to put it. Like, I think mostly a lot of people are insane. And there's nothing like having like a messy or lunatic roommate, and then maybe you do become friends though. Maybe you're friends, maybe you're friendly. And then you go visit them at their house and you see that it's pretty much the same. This person is wild through and through. I had a roommate that, there would be some nights where he would sleep in the bathtub. He had a bed, he had a mattress, he had pillows. But he said he would sleep in the bathtub because it felt more normal to him when he would wake up from a night terror. And I was like, I don't know how you find that out. That means this man had night terrors and tried every room before he went tub. And that was a tough roommate to have because, I would go to bed at a regular time, even a little late because, we're young and everything. We're in college, and then I would just know I can't go to the bathroom for the rest of the night. No, I can't. I'm gonna have to hold it until he wakes up. And what would normally be distressing, sleeping peacefully, and then hearing from the bathroom, is only made a relief, because then I know, okay, he's up, I can go. A lot of people in America worry about terrorism. This is a top concern for some people, and it just depends, mostly, to me at least, on when you were born, And I think that within this understanding of terrorism, there are many different definitions, One definition is someone who stokes fear and anxiety for the purpose of fear and anxiety in their enemies. And there's a lot of talk of terrorism or potential terrorism. People get called terrorists all the time, and there are some people that want to equate terrorism to one specific group, one specific religion. But I know that there are terrorists, but the terrorists that I'm talking about, they have no religion. The terrorists that I'm talking about, the terrorists that I believe already live in the U.S., they don't have some God that they call to for their purpose of doing what they do. They just do it to stoke fear and anxiety. I'm talking about people who put an empty box of cereal back on the shelf. These people have no place in our society, all right? I had a roommate. Last straw for me was this man. I had bought some Cheerios, and I bought it for the group. We all eating out here. And so then I go to grab the Cheerios, and I'm excited, I'm hungry. And I go to grab the Cheerios, and there's a certain feeling. Anyone who's been a victim of what I'm talking about will know the feeling. It is a weightlessness of despair. You go to grab what you think might even be a half-full box of cereal, and in your attempt to grab it, you put too much energy, too much force into your shoulder, into your arm, into your hand. And when you put that force into your shoulder and your arm and your hand, and you grab the box of cereal and you go to lift it up, you hit the top of the cabinet. Because there's nothing in there. And not only is there nothing in there, what's been left is crumbs. And the sound of crumbs is the jingle bells of poverty, all right? I've never felt poorer than when I hear crumbs. Hearing crumbs is right out of Oliver Twist. Crumbs is what Charles Dickens wrote all his best work to. I didn't even think I could hear crumbs. Oh, but they have a sound. It's a mix between bread particles bouncing off each other and then a whisper. It's in a moment. It's something that almost can't be identified. And it's the whisper of those crumbs, the same way that you could split atoms or you could collide particles and make an entire boom, a bang, a nuclear bomb, and a hydrogen bomb. The banging together of these bread particles makes one singular noise, and it is the universe telling you from a point of almost quantum physics, bouncing the particles off each other, that you're poor. That's the sound of poor. Wouldn't you love to say yum? You'll never say it. You're too poor. These are crumbs. If you've ever, in your life, out of necessity, not out of deliciousness, had to pour crumbs into your mouth, only in the Bible do I imagine this level of thirst for food. You might as well be in the desert. Even if you are in your Pittsburgh apartment, you might as well be in the desert if you are opening your mouth, letting it hang, while an entire bag while a bag of crumbs slides and floats to your mouth. Because the crumbs that are sliding into your mouth from this bag, they have no Christianity. These crumbs are there to embarrass you. They're there to make you look and feel poor while you pour them into your mouth. Maybe that's where we get the word poor from, and maybe that's where we get the other word poor from, because you have to pour these into your mouth while you feel like the poorest person that has ever lived. And the bag is stiff because it's that hard, semi-soft plastic that they only make cereal bags out of. And because of that, it's got a lot of ridges. It's got a lot of things that the crumbs can slide and get caught up on, you know? It's a lot like when you try to get water to a new place and the water is working its way through the canyon, but it doesn't know where to go yet. It's being pushed by the other water. And this gravity that's pulling down the crumbs to your mouth has the crumbs rushing at you from all angles. Even when you try to pinch the bag, you try to pinch the bag to give yourself some dignity. You try to pinch it and straighten it up to make a funnel for your mouth, because this is all you have. Crumbs is all you have. Crumbs is your life. And so you make it as straight as possible. You slide it down. Only when you are making a paper plane do you have this level of intent as you straighten something out. You straighten it out as much as possible, and then you dip it into your mouth, and still the ridges find a way. Because the devil is busy. Oh, the devil is hard at work trying to make you look and feel poor, even if you're alone in the room. You pour the crumbs, they're rushing from all angles, skiing down the plastic to your mouth. But then something happens. You don't know if it's in the middle of the bag or it's at the very edge, because some bags, depending on what cereal you get, have smooth tops and some have ridged tops, okay? That's going to be important, because if it's a smooth top, the crumbs will slide out. If there's ridges right at the top, that means that the crumbs have one last giddy up before they get to your mouth. And so then not only do they giddy up, but you are looking for the food. You'd at least like to see what you're eating. And so you're looking down the bag, and the crumbs are like, we can go anywhere. We could go in your mouth, we could go up your nose, but we love to go in your eyes. And so then you're standing there with crumbs in your mouth and in your eyes and down your face and down your shirt, because as soon as they got in your eyes, they stung, because crumbs are sharp. You might as well juggle knives over your open eyes. You know what that feels like? To be Do you know what that feels like, to have to dig Cinnamon Toast Crunch out your eyes? Every cereal sharp. Every cereal is sharp. And so I remember I was a victim of terrorism. And I took my crumbs like a man. But then I confronted my roommate. I said, hey. I know what you did. You know what you did. I don't know why you did it. I feel like I've been very respectful. I feel like we have a good rapport. I don't know why you would engage in such a vicious attack against my Saturday. And he was like, what? I was like, you know what? Because he did know what. Because without me saying anything else, he was like, look. I put it back, but there was some in there. And I said, some crumbs? He's like, no. There was Cheerios in there. And then I thought, okay, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe I have accused the wrong roommate, because I have more than one. And so then I walked to the kitchen with him, because the bag and the box were laying on the ground, because I obviously had to run to the bathroom and wash my eyes out of the very sharp cereal. And at this time, first of all, I need to go back. This is the second time this had happened, all right? And so first time was Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and then the next time it was Cheerios. That's my mistake. And so then he was like, there was some in there, and then we walk over, and the bag and the box are strewn on the floor like a crime scene. Because I had to drop them immediately. I also got Cheerio in my eye. And I was like, there was nothing. And you know there was nothing, because it was only crumbs. And now the crumbs are in me and on me. And then he's like, no, there was something left. I was like, what left? And he was like, there was one Cheerio. And I was like, Now I know. You might as well be Osama bin Laden, because the fact that there was one Cheerio you chose to not eat and leave means you're out of your mind. And then I looked, and sure enough, there was one Cheerio on the ground. One Cheerio. A single Cheerio. Like a British person saying goodbye. Obviously, I didn't kill him. I'm here with you now, but I thought about it. I struggled a lot, growing up, even into like early adulthood, with opinion of myself, with like body image and everything. It's very difficult sometimes for any young person to believe, if they don't already believe, that they are lovable or that they are good in just the way that they are. Basically, that they are enough. You're still working on yourself. There's still things you want to do with your life. You got your whole life ahead of you, but there's nothing extra you have to do to be worth anything, And it's a hard thing to convince someone of who doesn't believe it. I wish more people believed it. If you saw yourself the way that the people that love you see you, what a beautiful world that would be, And it's not as if love isn't poured into and on these people, showered with praise when something goes right. Not everyone gets it, but even for the people that do, they still struggle with body image, they still struggle with confidence. And then for the people who should have people that they look up to, maybe not giving them any of that, either being indifferent to them or actively hurting their confidence. Sometimes even when you have those positive forces in your life, you still don't accept it in a way that would help boost your confidence. You're like, she loves me, but that's like my mom. She biased. And I know for me, I spent a ton of time trying to work on myself in different ways. Some things that I actually needed, some things that built me up, and some things that were maybe a little bit unnecessary, I really struggled to look at myself in any positive way until I got really fit. Like in my head, really, really fit. I should look like, I saw other guys and I thought I should look like that. I should look like a version of that, at least, And never mind that I'm looking at dudes who have been on their own journey or struggle with their own confidence, or maybe get a little extra help to look the way that they look. I don't know. And I was never trying to be like insanely huge. I joke about being like ripped and real big, but honestly, I don't have the frame for it. Truly, I'm not tall enough to be wide. Yeah, no matter how big my shoulders got, I'd start to just be in the way. Like, it looks good in the picture when you're flexing and you've got all the muscles and they're all defined and everything, but then practically in life, it does start to be a problem when you're trying to walk through a door. You don't want to be on a date and see a door and go, uh-oh. How do we handle this? Because the shoulders, the hips, they're all wide and muscular, but that door frame, oof. making all of them standard. I can't believe they doing this. And then you're holding hands, you get to the door, and you're like, you first. You look like you being a gentleman, you know. Please go ahead. And then she walks through the door with ease, and you now have to figure something out. You're standing on the opposite side of the door, and you're like, oh, okay. As soon as you strained, you let her know this isn't going to be the life for her. I never wanted to be huge. I just wanted to be very, very fit, you know? And I worked on it with some success, with less success. But even when I started to work out, I realized that wasn't really the issue. Now I was going to the gym, and I was eating as much as possible, and I was gaining a little bit of weight. Not much. And I was like fighting to keep looking this certain way. And I finally accepted that, like, even if I got there, maybe I wouldn't be happy. And I even discovered that through other people who I knew were there. People who I wanted to look like that were in my life, you know? And they still had all the same problems I did. And I would go to the gym and I'd see people packed in there fighting to look a certain way so they could feel a certain way. And there is a bit of a cheat code. You could try to work on feeling the way without having to fully change your entire body. You know? You don't have to earn loving yourself through like straining and potentially hurting yourself, you know? Like there's some things that there's some things that go and be lifted in therapy, you know? Like it's just and but I remember I would see these workouts, and sometimes you see people get creative. There are a couple machines that are pretty straightforward. You sit down, you want to row, you put your feet here, and you pull. And that's the exercise right here. This is just what you do, and you do it for your back. You know, you work a little biceps in there too, and maybe if you're trying to work more of the back, you can lean forward a little, lean back a little with the pull, you know. I saw a guy sit down like normal and then put his feet in. And I'm not gonna lie, I stopped. I was like, this is about to be awesome. And this man, I don't know what muscle it works out. It seems like it just ruins your joints, but he went, just make sure it's clear. And it looked like it felt like it sounded. This man did 8 sets of 10. And I watched the whole thing. Oh. There was even a time where I went to the gym and, I was working out my legs differently. I was doing some lunges, I was doing some like split squats and everything. Not much weight, but just trying to make sure that I worked out my legs, because there are some people that in all that self-consciousness and all of that wanting to build up for yourself, your body and your image, they still only work on the glamour muscles. They forget the base. They forget their core sometimes, and they definitely forget their legs. And we've been told since we were children that the legs are important. We've been told in many different ways. We've been told by PE teachers. We've been told by coaches. We've been told by parents. We've been told by cartoons. There's an entire cartoon dedicated to people who skip leg day. Johnny Bravo was trying to warn us for our entire childhood how important leg day is. That's not a structure you want. You don't want to have more hair than... So I was working out my legs, and so I'm packed into this gym with a bunch of other people, which is, look, it's very frustrating because this gym was unfortunately affordable. So a lot of people were in there, and I was one of them. And I was hopeful, sometimes they sell memberships all year and they're counting on people not to go. The way the gym structures are built out, it's so that you get all of these people here, but they're signed up, they don't actually show up. And so a gym is able to run fairly efficiently as long as like a tenth of the people who are members show up at a time. If everybody showed up that was a member of the gym, if everybody started to really decide to work on themselves, it would look a lot like TSA. There'd be very little movement. The only way to work out would be passing the weights, just you can have some. And while I was in the gym, packed in there with everybody else, there was a fire alarm that went off and some smoke that we saw. And, I didn't see any fire, but 2 out of 3 signs isn't bad. And so there were only 2 exits, which in retrospect was a horrible thing. Like you could only get out through the elevator, which you're not going to take during a fire, or the stairs. And so people started clamoring for the stairs. And this is where the real fitness test began. Because there were some people that were out in a flash, but then there were other people who had been working out. So they used all their fire running strength on the treadmill. So now they see that the fire alarm is going off and there's smoke, and they hop off the treadmill and they're like, oh no. And then there were other people, what I would assume people who were a bit out of their mind, that even treated the running out of the gym like a workout. There was one lady literally still looking at her watch going, and then there was me, who had been doing leg day. I tried to make my way out as fast as I could, but honestly, if I could brag on myself for a second, I had gone pretty hard. I had a PR and everything, and a PR is what you don't want to have when it's time to run. Because I put the weight down, I saw everybody running out, and I made my way for the exit, and I could not stop jiggling. Like every... And yeah, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you have to evacuate for a fire, but nobody moves like there's a fire. Even as you're going downstairs to like get out of the building that has smoke in it that is like clearly, at least seemingly on fire, you still get people that do that thing that people do when they get to the top of the stairs, where now that they're clear, they just enjoy their day. If you've ever been in a walkway, there are people who can't wait. At the beginning of the stairs, they can't wait to get up there. And then as soon as they get up there, as soon as they are past the last step, they're like, oh, yes. As if there's not a ton of people behind them. And so I'm noticing as I'm shaking and jiggling down the steps, how slow people are going down the steps. And so people do start to scream like, hey, hurry, move it, you know, fire. And then we get outside, and it was next to the door. One of the reasons everybody was slowing up was that same lady was out front near the door, just like next to the door. Just run, like you still got the rest of the world to run. What are you waiting for? If you're waiting for your gym buddy, you left him. You left him to die. It's funny because I was watching the news and I saw this, can't really call it a debate, it was more of a screaming match. But it was on CNN. And on CNN, okay. Found the one person that works at CNN, and that's bad. I've never heard anybody clap for CNN like that. Yeah. What is that? Now, to be fair, though, look. To be fair, we don't know where our friend is from, and CNN abroad is actually substantially better. Like, when you watch CNN and you're in like France or something, it is actually like engaging programming. That we really are the only ones that do CNN the way we do CNN. I like, as an example, when you travel the world, McDonald's is still fast food. We're the only ones that made it poison. You know, every other country, they just say what happened on the news. They just tell you. They're like, oh yeah, no, then these people came, and then the other people came, and then the first people left, and the second group of people left. It's really mostly in the US where you watch news and it's like, chaos in the streets! Like every news segment is cutting a promo for a horror movie. I was watching CNN and I saw where Jillian Michaels was on there in a debate that she seemed to have started, and they were talking about changes to the Smithsonian and how art and culture shifts between who has the power to dictate how the exhibits are written, who the exhibits are of, and everything. And Jillian Michaels was like, it's so unfair that slavery in this country only gets blamed on one race. Look, as outrageous as that is genuinely funny. Like, look. Look, I'm not gonna tell anybody how to feel, but if you heard the words I said, that Jillian said, and you immediately got angry, I would ask you to take a step back. I'm not gonna tell you how to feel. You can be angry if you want to be angry, because it is a very short-sighted, ignorant thing to say, but that's precisely why it's so funny. It is absolutely hilarious. But the best way I can describe why this is funny is when I was a kid, I would I would be at home alone for about 3 hours. I would get off, from school. I would do practice, and then I would get home and be alone for about 3 hours, right? So for 3 hours, I was the only person in the house. And one day, I was just walking through the house. I was eating something. I think I was like eating some Easy Mac and walking, not paying attention where I was going. And I knocked over this vase. And it was a vase that my mom loved, right? And so it smashes on the ground. And I genuinely didn't know what to do, because I was like, man, I'm going to be in a huge amount of trouble. I need to think of something. And in my head, I was like, what should I do? Should I call my mom now and be like, hey, when you get home, you will want to beat me. But I feel like if I tell you now and you're going to be like on shift for another half hour, and then just the concern, because I never call you, I'm hoping the concern that you have that I am calling you you'll be so relieved that I'm alive, that I'm not dead, you'll want to kill me less. You know, because having that coworker be like, it's your son, you know what I mean? And then have you be like, oh, what, my baby? And then I tell you what I'm about to tell you, and then you're like, oh, I'm just so glad you're still with us that I would hate to make it so you were not, right? That was one thought. Then the other thought was, look, I've given this whole having a family thing a good run. Maybe I dip right now. Maybe I leave home right now. And then the third thing, which is what I did do, was nothing. I went to my room and played some video games for what felt like might be the last time in a long time. And then my mom got home. I remember all the noises of her getting home. I remember the screen door, and then the lock, and then the lock turning, and then the deadbolt turning, and then her walking in, the screen door shutting behind her, her shutting the door, her locking the door, and the deadbolt. Again, every footstep from the front door to the kitchen, because she missed it at first. And then every footstep after the kitchen back into the living room, where I heard my name. And not my name the way you know it, my full legal name. You know what they put on your death certificate or before a parent kills you? My full legal name. And then I walk in, and my mom is like, what happened? What is this? And then I said, oh, you just gonna blame it on me? Wow. Maybe I was in there playing video games the entire time. Maybe somebody broke it and left. Maybe I'm lucky to be alive right now. You're just gonna immediately blame me because I was the only one here. You're just gonna blame me because it looks like it was me. And that's kind of what Jillian Michaels was doing with the whole, like... Yeah, that's kind of what she was doing. Can't believe you would just blame it on one race of people. And it's so funny too, because when it comes to history like that, there are always these bad actors that try to pull the thinnest straw man out of the woodwork. You know, there'll always be that person. There was a guy. I don't actually remember his name, and this is before slavery in the U.S. was more based on race and before more people were shipped to the U.S. There was a dude that I've read about that apparently was of African descent, and he came over and he had about 2 or 3 slaves, and one of those slaves was seemingly of the Caucasian persuasion. And whether this thing is true or a myth, I've heard it my entire life when referencing slavery, that there was one black guy who had a white slave. And I'm like, look, even if that's true, that's not what it's known for. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just picking and choosing how you present an entire idea. And it makes sense to me that someone like Jillian Michaels would say something like this. She is from a reality TV show. She's known for the show The Biggest Loser. Yeah, that's who she is, that coach from The Biggest Loser. You know, the nice one. The Biggest Loser was a show, I don't think it's still on the air anymore, so if you're not familiar with the show, it was a show where they would bring on people who were overweight, struggling with image and everything, and they would help them lose weight by making them do slavery.
Mira,